Welcome to the Branded Assets Podcast, your place for hot takes on business, brands, and billion-dollar gossip. I'm your host, Kate Bouchard. Thanks for being here. Hello, welcome to another episode of Branded Assets. I want to start off by saying that I'm honestly so grateful and excited at all of the wonderful reception that I've had so far about the podcast. Honestly, I couldn't have imagined the number of comments and shares and excitement that I've had from people in my DMs. And to any and all of you who have listened to any of the shows, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm getting a lot of joy out of this. And, for someone who's been through the ringer the last few years in business and in Loba and making the choice to wind it down and put a pause on it for now, it just means so much that I can take those lessons and those learnings and channel them into something like branded assets and have these really fun and interesting conversations that hopefully bring benefit to you all listening. So if you're listening to this episode and you haven't yet subscribed, I'd so appreciate that you do that. And also, we actually have a YouTube channel. So the solo episodes um, don't have video yet, but they are available on YouTube. And then our Rich Girl Rundown episodes, as well as our hot seat guests, will be filmed. So for anyone who prefers to watch versus just listen, that is available on YouTube. I would love a subscribe. Also, any ratings and reviews that you can leave if you like what you hear or feedback that you can give me would be greatly appreciated. I want to know what you think and what you want to hear more about. So having said all that, let's get into it. Today, what I really want to talk about is why a brand is more than a logo. With 15 years in marketing and advertising and 8 years having my own branding and marketing agency, this is something that still shocks me how few people understand what a brand really is and why strategy matters first. Because really, you want to use brand strategy to grow every day with intention. Right now, I'm actually writing and developing a brand strategy workbook that's going to be available and very accessible for small business owners so that they can follow the method that we use at Armature. So the subject is really top of mind, and the brand strategy workbook is soon going to be available for purchase and for digital downloads. You can actually use it yourself and walk through all the steps that we take at Armature and that I take when doing brand strategy development for clients. Lots of people come forward wanting to work with us, and unfortunately, sometimes you just don't have the capital in the beginning to hire an agency to do that and to work with the experts. But I don't want to leave people just with nothing. I want to be able to give you some of the basics and the foundation of what that work entails so that you can do a lot of it yourself before you reach out and start working with a graphic designer or, hire someone on Fiverr to support you with like that visual identity. So keep a lookout for that. I'm going to share more at the end of the episode. As a business owner, you are the face of the business and you are the reason why your company is different. So when it comes to marketing and branding, your strategy, it can't just be a logo that you slap together. Like it needs to connect to and reflect who you are and how you uniquely see things. Loved by both celebrities and film industry professionals, Skin Edition is the industry's best kept secret no longer. Created by my friend Lisa Marie, who's a facialist to the stars and owner of the Skin Girls Medical Aesthetic Clinic, this medical grade skincare line will absolutely transform your skin, no matter your skin type, no matter your needs. And what I love even more about Skin Edition and Lisa is that a portion of the proceeds actually goes to support women's charities. So if you want to learn more, visit shopskinedition.ca. And we have a special code for listeners. If you use the code branded assets at checkout, you'll get 20% off your first purchase. That's code branded assets at shopskinedition.ca for 20% off your first order. Happy shopping. Too often over the years, I've seen small business owners get a logo made by their cousin's friend's son who made it in Word and they call it a brand. I also see really well-intentioned founders fall into what I call the canvification of brands. And yes, I coined this term and I am fully taking credit for it. Canva, you may use it. It's an excellent tool for graphic design and it has democratized design and made it easier for businesses of all sizes to create materials without a graphic design background or a big budget. And that's really powerful. But the problem is when Canva becomes a substitute for brand strategy instead of using it as a tool that supports it. When that happens, Brands tend to be built on convenience rather than clarity, and everything starts to look and sound the same. Your business deserves more than a brand built off vibes and a free software subscription. So, you may ask, what then is a brand strategy? So, brand strategy actually allows your business to exist with intention. With a strong brand strategy, your business has a point of view. It knows who it's for, what it stands for, and what it's not trying to be. Without brand strategy, every post, every pitch, every partnership or design choice, it becomes a one-off decision. Developing a full strategy, yes, it may take longer. And yes, it will cost more money. But when you invest upfront in defining who you are, defining what you believe, and how you want to show up in the world, everything downstream, all of those decisions become easier and more effective. Your marketing gets clearer, your visuals get stronger, your audience understands you faster and trusts you sooner. And you also repel people who are not the right customer, who you're not going after. The thing that I always try to share is that brand strategy is not an indulgence. It's not a nice to have. It's a strategic asset. And if you want to build something that lasts, something that's differentiated, something that stands out that people can believe in and get behind, you really need a brand built with intention from the start. Sometimes when working with a new client, I find it's helpful to first outline what a brand is not. So, your brand is not a logo. It's not a color palette, it's not an Instagram post, and it's certainly not your website. Those are what we call assets. Those are not the brand itself, right? Brand strategy creates the meaning. It's essentially the thesis for why your business exists. A great example of this that I use quite frequently is Nike. We know everyone knows that logo. The swoosh logo is iconic, but it's the stories and the values behind it that make people loyal. Nike's brand is defined by purpose, performance, and empowerment. And it's articulated visually through their logo, through their color palette, through their designs, through their storytelling, right? Because a logo without meaning is just a symbol. And a beautiful website without clarity is just a brochure. You may be posting consistently, but without strategy, that's just noise. A brand is also not about making things look polished for the sake of it. This is where, especially with Canva, trends, templates, or what everyone else in your industry is doing can make you fade into the background. A strong brand strategy is the foundation that allows your business to grow with intention and integrity, and the assets come later. But if you jump straight to creating assets, you leave things undefined. And this is where things can really go awry is that as your company scales, which hopefully it will, right? We all want to scale our businesses and be successful. When you begin to delegate marketing or design or customer experience to others, this is where it becomes dangerous to not have had a brand strategy to start. So, what is a brand? Your brand is essentially the emotional connection that people form with you over time. At the end of the day, people choose you over the alternative because of what you stand for and how you make them feel. Your brand is made up of a number of components, and these are some of them. An articulation of your company's purpose, the beliefs and values that guide your decisions behind the scenes, the promises you make to your audience and to your community, and the consistency with how you deliver them. Your brand is the trust that people place in you, and often that happens before they can fully articulate why. And your brand is also how you see things, what you stand for, even when it costs you something. And yes, your brand is also how all of that shows up visually. But a visual identity is not decoration. It's not there just to look pretty. It's simply a translation of your brand strategy, just like that Nike swoosh. It's a translation of that earlier strategic work. Your visual identity, it's how your values, your positioning, your point of view are expressed through things like color, type, layout, design choices that you're making. Your visual identity is the imagery and the visual cues that signal who you are, what you stand for, and when done well, the visual identity doesn't just look good. It feels right to the people that you're meant to serve, to your target audience. As I mentioned, people can get a product or a service like yours in a lot of places. So why would they choose to get it from you? It's truly because of what you stand for and how you make them feel. So a brand strategy, it's not something that you just create and file away. It's something that you and your team actually use daily. And when built properly, it becomes almost like a working model that guides decisions across your business, not just how things look. Like the visual identity is a big part of it, yes, but it's also how things operate, right? So when you've defined your purpose and your promise, that's something that you use in hiring, in orientation, in developing a culture. It gives you and your team a shared language and a clear point of view and a filter for evaluating what belongs and what doesn't. A great example of this is like as you're looking to maybe partner with a different organization, you can look to your brand and go, will this partnership help us to keep our promise to our customers, our employees, and to our community? Does it fit with our purpose? Like, is it truly aligned with who we are and what we stand for? And if the answer is no, then you're not going to proceed with that partnership. But if you haven't defined it, you're kind of just going off what, like a feeling, you know, vibes. It may lead you astray if it's not clear. It's time for another question from my community. A few weeks ago, I shared on Instagram that I would love to address any questions people have about business, branding, developing a product, being a startup founder, whatever. I'm an open book. So here's today's question. If I have a product idea, where the heck do I even start? I love this because I can feel almost like the overwhelm or the uncertainty in the way that this is worded. And I have been there for sure. So I think there's sort of two camps to people when they have an idea to develop a product. I think the first is like crazy mad scientist, can't like sleep, eat, dream, shower without thinking about it. That was me in the first few weeks of coming up with the idea for Loba. And then there's the other where it's like they have this great idea and almost freeze, like have no clue where to start. And I'm getting that vibe from this question. I think it's really important to spend the time on research and discovery, like a really robust research and discovery phase. And depending on the product, this may look different. But even if you have the most brilliant idea that is one day going to lead to, like $1 billion business, tons of sales, I don't feel that it's smart advice to say just like jump directly into it and contact a manufacturer and get it made. I really think you need to pause and spend the time to look at the landscape. Do the research on the target audience who would use this. What is the market? What is the market for something like this? Find out, really define the problem and the opportunity and figure out how many people, first nationally and then maybe in North America and then globally actually need your solution and back that up with research and statistics. So I think that's the first thing. Like before jumping into design, we may think that we need a product like this, but confirm first that other people do. Make sure it's not just you. Then I would start looking at if that's confirmed, there is the market, there's a big TAM, which is total addressable market. There's opportunity, there's alternatives that show that there's opportunity, but they're a little bit different than yours. You'd have a competitive advantage. I definitely think about positioning, and then I might move into doing some initial early phase product design. And this can look like material discovery. It can look like referring to other industries, adjacent industries with products of a similar aesthetic or use case and consider what materials they've been made of, the pricing of those materials, who has expertise in that in your area. Are you going to have to go overseas to manufacture? Who are the experts in manufacturing? Like, have tons of conversations. I don't think I've mentioned this before in the podcast, but I actually, in the early days, created a mind map of all of the people that I spoke to before spending a cent on product design and development. And it was like hundreds of people. Do your research, spend that time. Those are the two places I would start. Looking at the market, making sure that the target audience exists, problem, solution, opportunity, that kind of research, like from a business perspective. And then if that's confirmed, I'd start to work on product design discovery, materiality, manufacturing, how you might even go about like getting it designed. There's so many steps in between there, but keeping it at a high level, I hope that gives you a place to start. Can you launch a business without a brand? Absolutely. But having a strong one makes these decisions clearer and faster. And it plays that vital role internally. Like it helps orient staff and contractors, it sets expectations for how the business shows up and what matters most. It influences what work gets done. When your brand is clear, people don't have to guess what on brand means. They can feel it and they can evaluate it. Graphic design, social media, websites, marketing materials, those are all expressions of your brand, but they're not your brand itself. Those are the outputs. And the strategy is the system behind them. Used properly, your brand is a lens, it's a compass, and it's a tool for building a business with intention and with longevity and one that's going to resonate with people. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this episode, it's the value of a fulsome, intentional, strategic brand and doing this work up front versus just diving into developing a logo or creating a visual identity in Canva. It may look pretty or do the trick for a while, but if you have dreams of scaling, you're going to be forced to go back and develop a brand strategy later. And Lord knows it's harder to build the plane as you fly it rather than being intentional from the start. If you don't have the budget to hire an agency to help, please do the strategic work yourself as best you can before hiring that graphic designer. There are lots of resources available online. And if you're interested in joining the waitlist for my brand strategy workbook, I invite you to visit armaturecollective.com. That's ARMATURE collective.com to sign up. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page and there's a section you can see. It says Get the Brand Workbook. Just click there and you'll be notified when we release it. This is something that I've been working on for a long time. And now more than ever, I really feel like my community and my network could get use out of it. So I am going to be dedicating resources to getting this baby, fully created and birthed and developed out into the world. So if you are interested, please go and do that. I hope I've left you with some useful concepts to think about and, maybe something you hadn't considered before when it comes to the difference between a brand strategy and developing a brand and then just the assets of your brand. I do think it's really important to understand the difference between visual identity and that foundational piece. So that's it for today. I'd love to hear what you think of the podcast. If you're enjoying it so far, please subscribe and leave us a review. We are in the early days of the show, and that would mean so much to me. And your support so far, every episode you listen to, any comments you've left on our social media has just been amazing. So thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. That's a wrap on today's episode of Branded Assets. Power looks better when women are in the room, so thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, follow the show, share it with a friend, and join us on Instagram at Branded Assets. We're just getting started. I'm Kate Bouchard. See you next time.